It is a gloomy, windy and rainy day, so what better way to spend it than talking about books, and specifically talking about my 5-star reads. Today I am sharing my all-time favorite books, and these are all going to be fiction except for one, which is a memoir. Some of the books I don't have them physically here, at least not yet. I haven't purchased them yet because I listened to them in an audiobook form, but you best believe I will be buying them soon because if I love a book, I gotta have it in my collection. Also, very soon I will buy my first ever bookshelf. I'm going to film the whole process, me buying the bookshelf, building it, organizing it, decorating it. So if you are a book girl, if you are a book lover, consider subscribing because I have a lot of good book content coming your way. So let's start with book number 1, which is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I have my laptop with a few notes here on the side. This book is written in Greek. I am Greek, by the way, if this is the first time that you see a video of mine, but I have this book ever since I was a child. This is actually a children's book, but obviously it is a classic, and I definitely encourage people of all ages to read this book. My mom used to read this book to me before I fall asleep, and I remember I loved it. And of course now as an adult I keep on rereading it every once in a while myself because it is such a beautiful book. This book follows Sarah, a little girl who has a huge imagination, and she has also a very kind soul. Sarah has a beautiful relationship with her father. She adores her father adores her, but then suddenly she loses her father. He dies, and even though Sarah comes from a wealthy background, she suddenly ends up with nothing. So Sarah is a student at a school. The headmaster of the school, who is an awful woman, sends her to live in the school's attic. Sarah shows us that even though some people might treat us poorly, and even though we might feel that we have no one in the world or we have lost everything we had, she shows us that we can still stay with our head held high, and we need to stay kind and true to our character. We shouldn't lose ourselves and become the same as the people who treat us poorly, and better days will finally come again. I will also be sharing one of my favorite quotes from each and every one of these books. So the quote that I chose from The Little Princess is this one: "When people are insulting you, there is nothing so good for them as not to say a word. Just to look at them and think. When you will not fly into a passion, people know you are stronger than they are, because you are strong enough to hold in your rage, and they are not. And they say stupid things they wish they hadn't said afterward. There is nothing so strong as rage except what makes you hold it in. That's stronger. It's a good thing not to answer your enemies." The next book that I want to share with you is called Flowers by Algernon. This is also a classic, and I think it falls under the science fiction category. So we have our main character Charlie Gordon, who is born with a very low IQ, and he decides to become a subject for an experimental surgery that might make him very intelligent, very smart. This surgery has already been performed to a mouse. The mouse is called Algernon, and that surgery was successful on the mouse, and Algernon did end up becoming a smart mouse. Charlie does end up becoming brilliant after the surgery, and he becomes even smarter compared to the doctors and professors around him. But unfortunately, Algernon, the mouse, suddenly starts acting strange, and we are left to wonder if the same will end up happening to Charlie as well. This was definitely one of the best books I have ever read. It's going to make you feel so many emotions. This book was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. And the quote I chose is this one: "I don't know what's worse, to not know what you are and be happy, or to become what you've always wanted to be and feel alone." My next 5-star read is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a historical fiction. The story takes place at the period before and after World War II. It follows a butler named Stevens, and throughout the book, throughout the story, we notice how much his job as a butler means to him. Even though his employer's politics, his first employer's politics, are quite questionable. It feels like being a butler is way more important than anything else in Stevens' life. We keep seeing Stevens push aside his personal life and his personal needs in order to be a good professional butler. It's the kind of book that will make you think about what's important in life and about your priorities. I especially love how everything is narrated narrated. Of course, Stephen as an English butler is using a very exquisite language, and this book was definitely both beautiful and sad. And this is the quote I chose: "The rest of my life stretches out as an emptiness before me." Another classic in my 5-star reads category is The Alchemist. This book is even more special to me because my father had recommended me to read it. So this book always reminds me of my father. This book follows Santiago, who is a young shepherd boy. So Santiago begins a journey to find a treasure, and this journey in reality is a journey about self-discovery, following your dreams, and having the strength and determination to follow your dreams. This is definitely an easy yet inspiring read, and I love books that have hidden messages to them, and this definitely has quite a few good messages in it. I have 2 quotes from this book that I really love. The first one is the one you see as soon as you will click on my channel. It is in my bio, and the first thing you read is people are capable at any time in their lives of doing what they dream of. And the second quote that I really love from The Alchemist, it's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. The next book that I have in my 5-star reads category is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like this author has an amazing writing style. Her books and stories are always so engaging and beautifully written. The book focuses on Evelyn Hugo. Evelyn is a huge Hollywood movie star, and now that she's an old woman, she decided to share an interview, a personal interview of her life and of all she has been through and all the husbands that she ended up marrying. She chooses a reporter who is not well known. Her name is Monique. So Monique is quite shocked that such a huge star would ask her to take this interview, but we do end up finding out why Evelyn chose Monique, and also we end up finding who the biggest love of her life was, of Evelyn's, because she had 7 husbands, so we might wonder who was her one true love. The plot twist, it is real. I love the scenery, the setup, the energy of this book. Everything is magnetic about it. I was hooked into this book and pulled into the story from the beginning till the end. And also this book, for some reason, made me look at Hollywood from a different point of view, let's say. The quote that I chose from this book is, "I spent half my time loving her and the other half hiding how much I loved her." The next book is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is the only nonfiction book that I'm sharing today. This is a memoir, and I'm really not the type of person who reads memoirs, but this book was fantastic. It made me laugh, it made me cry. I was thinking about my own life and about things that have happened to my life. Dolly shares her memories all the way back from her childhood to all the way after and being an adult. She shares all her experiences when it comes to romantic relationships, her friendships, school, jobs, everything. The quote that I chose from this book is this one: "I am always half in life, half in a fantastical version of it in my head. Aren't we all?" My next 5-star read is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, such a popular book. I know that opinions are mixed about this book, but I fell head over heels about this book. It was so beautiful. So this book is about a coffee shop that is at a small alley in Tokyo, and in that coffee shop you get the chance to travel back in the past, back in time. But there are some specific rules in order to do that, and you cannot stay at the past for as long as you want. You need to drink your coffee before it gets cold, otherwise there are consequences. So we get to see a few different stories of people who did end up traveling back in the past, back in time, and I thought that all of the stories were beautiful and moving, some of them a bit more than others, but all in all this book was phenomenal, and I was again really pulled into the story, and as I was reading it I felt like I was present in that coffee shop myself, and I was like maybe a person sitting at another table and hearing and seeing everything that was going on there, everything that the characters were doing and saying. It doesn't always happen with all the books that I read, so that's why this is definitely one of my all-time favorites. And this is the quote that I chose: "It takes courage to say what has to be said." The next book is Piranesi by Susanna Clark. First of all, let's take a moment to appreciate the gorgeous cover. We're not supposed to judge books by their covers, I know that, but this book, it is just gorgeous. So this book follows our main character called Piranesi. He lives in a huge house which is full of holes, staircases, statues. Each statue is unique. This house is straight up a labyrinth, but Piranesi is not lost at all. This house is his world. The ocean is also trapped inside this house. Piranesi doesn't live alone in the house. There is also another person there called the Other. That is how Piranesi addresses him. The Other is Piranesi's friend, or at least that's what Piranesi thinks. But then suddenly Piranesi starts receiving a few messages and he's called to uncover some mysteries. So this book is definitely mysterious, enigmatic, beautiful. I have never read another book like this one before. At the beginning, this book felt like a fever dream. I thought that I was going to be lost because I was reading about the holes and the statues and I was feeling like I would be lost throughout the story, but that was not the case at all. This was a beautiful story. Again, it had some hidden messages in it, which I love when a book has that. I adore the main character, his soul and his kindness. And one of my favorite quotes from this book says, "Perhaps even people you like and admire immensely can make you see the world in ways you would rather not." The Midnight Library is the next 5-star read that I want to share with you. If you haven't read this book, I encourage you to definitely read it. Such a powerful book with a beautiful message about life and the way we are meant to live it or supposed to live it. This book is about a woman named Nora, and at her last day on earth, she finds herself in the Midnight Library. There she finds unlimited books about different versions of her life, how she could have lived her life if she had made different choices. And then of course Nora starts choosing books about different versions of her lives and seeing how her life could have been and if these other versions of her life are in reality better. And my favorite quote is this one: "The only way to learn is to live." The next 3 books that are in my 5-star read category are all by the same fantasy series by Acotar, and my favorite books from this series are A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, and A Court of Silver Flames. I currently have only the physical copy of A Court of Silver Flames. I cannot wait to get the other books as well to display them at my beautiful bookshelf that I don't currently have, as we said. But we're getting there, one step at a time. Books can be expensive, so we're trying to keep it real in this channel. I cannot buy all the books that I want all at once, but these were the only books from the series that I gave 5 stars. The novella and the first book I didn't give 5 stars. I gave the first book 4 stars and the novella 3.5 stars. So if you're not familiar with Acotar, which I'm pretty sure you are, this is a fantasy series about fairies. These are also romance-heavy books. They have a lot of action as well. You know, the bad guys, the good guys. And to think that I was about to give up on Acotar halfway through the first book, but some people told me to keep pushing and that it would get better, and I'm so thankful to these people, because if I had given up on this story, I wouldn't be able to experience all the feelings and everything I have experienced while reading these books. These books again feel so vivid. When I read them, I feel like I am there with the characters. Maybe not during the spicy scenes though, that would be awkward. But you know, I feel like I am there in the action scenes and in the world building, and when our characters are having a good time and they're laughing, or when they are in pain and they are going through difficult moments. These books feel so real and vivid, and you're just sucked into the story so deeply. And when you finish these books, you just snap back to reality and you're like, why am I not at Valaris? Why am I not at the Night Court right now? Or at the Spring Court talking with Tamlin, trying to give him a therapy session? And this is also the first fantasy series that I read as an adult. The last time that I read fantasy, I was a teenager. So for A Court of Mist and Fury, the quote that I of course chose is the one that a lot of people have as their favorite. "To the people who look at the stars and wish, Reese. To the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered. From A Court of Wings and Ruin, leave this world a better place than you found it." If you know, you know. We all love that character who said that quote. And from A Court of Silver Flames, for every Nesta out there, climb the mountain. And that brings us to the end of this video. I definitely want to know some of your 5-star reads, so leave them down in the comments. Both fiction and non-fiction, it doesn't matter. I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more book content, and I'm gonna see you all in my next video. Bye, friends!